I survived 100 days in a Minecraft hardcore medieval war. And this is the biggest war I've seen yet. This is a medieval Minecraft server I set up a few months ago with my friends. But just cause we're friends doesn't mean there can't be any drama. And that's exactly what happened. 3 weeks ago, Emil Ruse took over my nation, claiming it for his, taking all our hard work and just being evil. And in this series, we're going to be doing our best to take it back from him. And if you want to watch the full lead up to this story, make sure to click the link in the top right. If you guys go on to enjoy this video, please hit that like button. This video took a long time to make and I'd really appreciate it. And if you're not subscribed around here and you enjoy the content, please consider subscribing. It's free and it means the world. But guys, what you're about to witness is all unscripted. I've just managed to turn it into a story, a drama. Enjoy. My nation and the players that live inside it were now under Emil's occupation. We had to follow his rules, like no weapons of any sorts, and all diamond tools and armor, and of course weapons, are not allowed. Over the few days that I lived inside the town, I didn't see much of Emil, but that's because MB, his second in command, was in charge of the town. And Emil had ordered him to build a castle just south of the city on a secluded island, which I must admit is a perfect place for a castle. It's isolated and we can't get to it unless we go across this dangerous bridge. But here's where things start getting deep. This road that was leading to the castle was getting closer to the town, and they were constructing it fast. And there was a house in the way of the road. This was Fife's house. Fife was the leader of the resistance, and I was part of that. That's right, we had a resistance going on in the town. A lot of the members were not happy with Emil's rules. But at the time when Emil captured the town, we weren't in a very strong position. But over the last few days, we've been gearing ourselves up quietly underground. But last night when I wasn't on the server, we took a massive blow. Missing Gnome was a player in the resistance, and he was storing a lot of our stuff in an underground basement. A hidden one, of course. And Emil and his team managed to find it, seizing all the weapons and all the armor we had managed to save up. Gnome managed to escape and hasn't came back since. There are signs all around the town. He's a wanted man. And he's wanted alive. You know what else I want? A dragon, so I can win this war. Today's video is sponsored by Dragon City, a free-to-play game available on both Android and iOS through the link in the description. Start off by building your dragon's habitat, collecting food and gold to build your perfect territory. Collect dragons to boost them through heated battles and achieving higher levels. You can even breed 2 dragons together to make your own unique dragon to defeat your enemies in future battles. With a wide range of different PvP modes, of adventure maps to new events, adventures can be discovered weekly. The adventure never really ends. Fight in real-time battles against friends and even epic team wars, allowing you to unlock exclusive dragons and challenge other dragon masters. Do you think you can win? You can even find your favorite YouTubers in Dragon City, such as Dream, George Not Found, Eddie VR, and many more. So what are you waiting for? Download Dragon City today, and by using the link in the description below, claim your free special reward of food, gold, and a very rare Thief Chief Dragon. And thanks again to Dragon City for sponsoring this video. All the supplies we worked for are now in the Skeleton Keep. That's what they call the castle. With Gnome now gone and our supplies all dwindling, we knew that storing valuable gear inside our house would get found, eventually. And with the imminent bulldozing of Fife's house, he knew he had to move everything out. So I decided I would leave my cave house and I would move out to the wilderness of the Storm's Landing region. If I move away, it won't cause any suspicion. At the end of the day, I live in a cave. It's time to make a real house. But this house would be responsible for everyone being able to bring their gear here and to be able to safely store it. It was early in the morning and barely anyone was online in the server, so I was leaving town. I grabbed a horse from Missing Gnome's boarded up house and I rode to the furthest end point of Storm's Landing territory. That way I was far enough away as possible, but still inside the land, and I couldn't be punished for that. I spent a few days working on my house, and I must admit I got overly invested in this because I can't build. And for once I wanted to build a respectful house that looks decent. So I struggled building for a few days, trying to make a roof that I kept failing at, and then I finally came up with this. This is the best I can make. For me, I think it looks amazing. The inside is what really gives it. I just like the different layers to it. But the main thing inside here is the chimney. And you might be wondering, why? Well, that's where I have all the secret stuff that is about to be stored. See, that's where I'm going to be storing all the secret resistant gear. Right above the chimney, I had put barrels up there because everybody searches houses and they always check walls and underground. But I'm not sure if they check roofs so much. This was kind of disguised. And I was even building a cellar down below, so if my house gets roundly checked, they're gonna assume if anything's hidden here, it's gonna be in the cellar. It's the perfect place to hide some stuff. That's what I wanted them to think. Over the next few days, everyone started coming, taking all the contraband that they had inside their houses and bringing it to my farm. I was responsible for hiding all this, and I stored it right in the chimney. Everything now was safely here. Or, that's what we thought. Fife Minor was getting evicted. It wasn't a shock. We all saw it coming. MB, following a Mill's order, was evicting Fife and Cozy from their house. He gave them little to no time to move everything out quickly. In fairness, Fife should have been more prepared for this. He saw it coming. Long story short, they got impatient and started burning down the house. But the problem was C-Tech was in the tower while the house was up in flames. His frame rates plummeted, and during this chaotic scene he fell to his death right off the tower. Just like that, a town member gone. But we were told we weren't allowed to have a funeral or bury him. They had other plans for the body. And just when things couldn't get more worse, they had found contraband inside Fife's house. They found diamond armor and a few weapons. Fife had clearly made a mistake and not moved everything out. He had so many secret barrels scattered all around the house, and he missed it. This time they weren't making the same mistake as they did with Gnome. And on the spot they arrested and captured Fife, taking him to the castle. The next time I see him won't be for a very long time. When MB and his guards left, the rest of the members got chatting, and some of the players were quite annoyed. They were sick of the constant bullying, and after this, the group kind of fell apart, dissolving into nothing. Some people left the town for a better life, and some people stayed, just accepting the rules. When returning to the town one night, hiding my pickaxe and diamond axe in my inventory, I saw Aaron burning down what was once a beautiful windmill. Burning down someone's hard work and just watching it burn. But sadly, I was kind of used to these sorts of actions, so I continued with the job that I was here for. I wanted to go mining and grab some cobblestone, since I was going low in that and I wanted to build a barn at my base. I was kind of enjoying building, to be honest, during all this chaos. But as I was mining, something clicked in me. I suppose I was thinking. I was bored, and I was fed up with being under this rule and waiting for the right moment to strike. So I rushed home. I grabbed the best gear I could muster, and all the supplies I could carry. Because I knew once I did this deed that I wasn't coming back, and I wouldn't be able to stay living here. At least next time when I return, I'll have to come back with an army, and fight to get this nation back. That's when, grabbing gear, I stumbled across a book. A book from Gnome, which I actually hadn't have seen. It read, "I have long heard a rumor of a powerful weapon to the west. Hopefully its power will be strong enough to fight back against the oppression menace that is the mill. I'm going to undertake this journey and discover this weapon." Now, I didn't know at this point if Gnome had found the weapon or not. At this point, it had been a very long time. And I could have messaged Gnome on Discord, asking him. But I like the mystery of actually searching for players. So we'll have to see on that one. But when I leave, this is a great place to go search for. I rode into town, but this time I wasn't hiding my weapon. I was in full contraband armor and I was ready to fight. I didn't know how many were online on a Mills team, but I was gonna fight, and no matter what, if I died, I died. It wouldn't be the first time I haven't made it fully to 100 days. But as I rode closer, I saw Aram, and this was perfect. This was the guy who burnt down the windmill. The guy that kicked us all off. We went into a fight. And by the seams of it, Aram wasn't ready for it. Cozy had just witnessed what I just did. But that wasn't a problem. He wasn't part of the resistance anymore, and he was just trying to get along living here. But I knew he wouldn't rat on me too much. It didn't really matter. At the end of the day, it says Aram was slain by RyanNotBrian. It's no secret. But I beckoned Cozy to pick up all the loot. I know that he'll hide it somewhere, and it can come in useful. After that, I got back on my horse, and I left town. For good. Time for a new chapter.
Goodbye, Virginia.
I sailed off into the night. And when the sun rose, I had hit land, and it was a jungle biome. Which means I was going in the right direction. I was told by a good friend, who is now living in this tribal town, that the way to get there is to follow the jungle shore, and then look for the first opening and head down the river. And just follow that until you get there. So that's what I did. After trekking the shores for a while, I found a campfire, signaling some sign of life. This map is massive, and going around the shores really shows the scale of it. But I had managed to find the river that they were talking about, that leads inland. It was a paradise, tucked away from all the dramas of the world. It's the kind of place you go to when you want to retire from making 100-day movies. But the friend I was talking about who now lives here is Jack. He did live in Storm's Landing, but when a mill in his occupation took place, Jack left and came here. When I got here, it was only Jack online. The rest of the people that lived in this tribal village weren't online. The plan was to convince this village to fight for us. They seem like a peaceful nation, so chances are, they probably won't fight. Later that day when I logged on, I saw a new person. A native of the village, I suppose. Everyone was now logging online. I dropped Phoebes a rod as a gift for letting me come here. And now finally, with the serpent glaive on her back, the leader of this tribal town had logged online. And long story short, I told her the whole story. Even giving her the book that Gnome sent. They said they were a peaceful village, but at the end of the day, a mill's just gonna come for them eventually once they find him. So they agreed when the time comes, they'll fight. This town was now an ally. They'll protect us, and we'll protect them. Now, it was time to leave. And it was time to venture down to Gnome, and to find him, and whatever he's up to. It was the next day, and when I was leaving, nobody was online. This little peaceful village was sleeping. And I left, going into the darkness. I traveled west until I hit land, and when I got here it was a luscious savanna. It looked so inviting, but that savanna didn't last. This land territory was harsh, and it was desert all around. I ventured looking for signs of life. This is when I stumbled across what looked like a cross. I'm not sure if this is an arrow, or if someone died here. And a friend marked the grave, but curiosity got the better of me. And I suppose out of disrespect I decided to dig under it. But there was nothing there. I took it as a sign. Maybe it's an arrow. And I went straight on from where the arrow was pointing. And I stumbled across cobblestone walls. Well, what looked to be the foundation of them. Now I had to be careful. I went up to the walls, looking to see if I can see anyone. I took my sword out just in case. I found a lovely bridge. I was confident this was Gnome, but I was just being safe. I crossed the bridge and now I could see a castle starting to appear on the horizon. But it was Gnome. I knew by the skin. Gnome was right. He had managed to find the weapon that gives him the rightful heir to this land. Which means now he has the right to build up his own nation. And to start fresh. I gave him the book that led me to him, and he gave it back. I was quite relieved to see that he had a castle, and that he was geared, and that he had other members, which is more important. Because what's going to win this war is players. They gave me a tour of the base that they were building. It wasn't finished yet, but I could see it coming along nicely. Gnome's building a great nation here. Let's just hope that we can bring the world to peace, so this nation can actually come alive. In Discord, Gnome told me about a local faction that lived in the other landmass that bordered their territory. He told me they were a rich faction and that they would probably fight for a pretty penny. Obviously, without question, Gnome was gonna fight to take back our land. And then he would return here and we would be good allies. But now, we need to get this other team on board and see will they fight for us and not for a mill. I stayed with Gnome for a few days, watching him build his tower that is coming along very nicely, as you can see. But it was time to get back to war planning. We had contacted the other team that Gnome told us about and we were heading over to now meet them. I didn't know the way, but Gnome knew exactly where to go. So we set sail off together. I must admit, it's nice being out of the town because now I get to see all the creations that everyone's actually working on. It's nice to see this world coming together one way or another. But 2 days passed and we hit land. We were now in the territory of another team, but hopefully we'll be convincing this team to fight alongside us. Gnome had told me that this is a team that lives out in the desert, hidden away. Not many people venture out here, for the fact there's nothing to plunder. It's lifeless. Luckily we had plenty of water, we stocked up well before this journey. But Gnome knew the way, and it wasn't long until we found their base, their castle, their nation, whatever you want to call it. And holy smokes, it looks amazing. This side of the world had been flourishing because it's been untouched by a mill and any hostile people. It's been relatively peaceful. And with peace, things can flourish, and nations can really build. I thought we were doing great progress with our town, but it seems like someone else was doing a lot better. The leader of this nation was Mikey, a good friend of mine. And he had built up an amazing team. We all got chatting in Discord. He knew exactly why I was here. He'd seen the video before. We had a good chat, and long story short, Mikey wanted to fight with us. See, Mikey's team was a mining town, and they wanted to make a bank where they can store all sorts of valuable items, and dangerous ones in the future, and pay a price for the people that want to use their services. But they do one thing. Since they live in the desert, they don't grow their own food, so they rely on trading. So Mikey had one request, that if we take back the town and our nation, we'll trade food with them for the next 100 days absolutely for free. And without question, I accepted. We now had 3 nations backing our mission. And Mikey's nation was our main sponsor. They were rich and had the resources that we needed. And I was confused of how they had so much resources. But then it became pretty clear. They showed me the mine that they had made. They even made it look cosmetically amazing. And as you ventured down to the bottom of it, it came clear. This team had a lot of stone and a lot of resources. Enough to supply an army. At least with all iron gear anyway. It was now time to head to war. But before we could do that, before we could set off on our journey and head home, Gnome needed to go home and gather his players. So we gave him a horse and he rode off. He said he'll meet us in the nearby town of JD Kellyville. Now with just Mikey's team and me, it was now time to set off. We had donkeys carrying a bunch of loot, mostly with cobblestone and just general resources, so that when we land we can build a castle. Something that we can hold our ground in, because let's be real, it won't be long until Emil and his team find out that we're back and that we're here for war. But as the sun rose, we trekked across to a nearby town, a neutral nation. Later on that day, we landed in JD Kelly's nation. JD Kelly, like I said, he was a neutral nation. He didn't have many members, and he wasn't going to be in the fight. But still, he was very useful, because we were going to be storing all our horses and our donkeys here. And then he's going to be shipping them across the world to where we're going to be landing. All for a price, which Mikey's paying for. Kindly as well, JD Kelly had set down a bunch of boats that we can use to trek home. This is when I kind of knew that JD Kelly wasn't fully neutral. He was clearly on our side. But I suppose when there's an evil person on the server, it doesn't matter. You can't really be neutral. You gotta pick sides eventually. I think he knows that. But before we could set off, I waited on the bridge, because this was the area where Gnome said he would meet us with his players and his team. And he arrived just on time. We were now ready to set off and head back home, but this time with an army. We sailed home slowly and carefully. One, due to the lag that was happening on the server, and also we wanted to avoid all the detections of the guard towers and everything they have in the water. If this many players got spotted, they would know exactly what we were up to. The goal is to land back at home and build a castle as soon as possible before we get spotted. So at least that when they spot us, they can't run us off the land instantly. Finally, after a long journey, I was home, back on my native land. And instantly I could see that someone had taken over my area. I wasn't sure who. But I did notice my house was now a burnt wreck. Clearly Emil and his team had done that. But who was living here now? Was it one of Emil's members? Was it now one of the resistance? I didn't know. No one knew. But whoever lived here wasn't online. Gnome and his team are about to turn this into a castle, a fortress, a place where we can hold down the fort. And if Emil comes with his first wave, we can repel. And then conquer the battlefield from there. But before he can build, JD Kelly needs to do his mission. And do the awkward journey of delivering the horses and the mules across the ocean. And a few days passed and we had a great castle. The barn build had been converted into an amazing fortress. And we had built more than just a fortress. We had built a new town without realizing it. The players had really adapted to this way of life. And far from home, they made a new home. This was great to see. This means they were dedicated to the cause. Gnome and his team, I must give credit. They had done 90% of this work. They're an amazing building team. And so far, we had not been spotted by Emil and his team. Things are going great. Until we got the alert on Discord that Emil and his team had found us. They had built a camp on the outskirts of town. I was late to log online, and Mikey and Gnome had ordered people not to leave the base. Our team had just watched them build a camp and we'd done nothing about it. A battle is coming. Emil now knew I was online, and he wasn't dumb. He knew this wasn't some foreign invader coming in to take the land. He knew it was one of us. Emil and his team came onto the battlefield. But it's like they didn't want to fight just yet. Emil wanted to talk. So we rode out to meet him. He placed down his banners as some sort of taunt. But I didn't care at this point. But we started speaking on how we can resolve this issue. But it's Emil. and there's no resolving anything with him. I asked him, does he want to solve it with politics or war, and he chose war. So war it is. Battles will be fought, and whoever wins this war will be the true leader of this land. Once and for all. But we both agreed no battles would be taking place today. But Emil, being Emil, wanted to at least shred some blood on this great field. Emil brought forward Fife, who was on the back of a horse. Fife was the leader of the resistance, who got captured. Emil wanted a 1v1 fight. One person from his team and one person from ours. If we win, we get Fife back. If we lose, Fife dies. And if we didn't agree to do this, Fife dies anyway. We rode back into the base and closed the gates quickly behind us. This is where we had a discussion of who would be fighting. But I heard it was Fatal who they were letting fight, and he was going to be fighting whoever represented us as a team. But when I heard it was Fatal, I knew that I had to fight. 1, it shows strong leadership. But 2, Fatal had burnt down my original village in the old world. So if I can get the kill here, I will be satisfied. But here's where we take a quick pause, and we talk about Emil and his staff, and the history behind it. Emil's weapon is not really a god weapon. It doesn't do damage, but it does something very great. Emil has the power to bring dead players back to life, and his weapon is called the Staff of the Undead. How original. And if a player is revived, they must follow the person who holds the staff loyally. No questions asked. That's the rules we set up on the server. How does he revive the dead, you ask? Well, the rules are simple with this. He has to find the location where the player died at, or is buried. I wasn't feeling overly confident. As you can see, Fatal holds a god weapon. I hold none at this current time. When the arrow hits the floor, it's time to fight. The fight went on all night, and I was going low on supplies. I had just eaten my last golden apple, and I had no survivability left. And to rub salt in the wounds, my helmet had popped, and I ran into the gate. Running for my life. I was on the brink of death. But my team stepped in and drove Fatal out of the castle. I had just ran from a fight to death. Very dishonorable. But here's the thing. It was better to run, because Emil would have raised me from the dead, and I would have had to fight on his side. There's no honor in that. But Emil's team got angry. Emil clearly wanted me to die and join his side, and with anger he launched a little scale attack, firing catapults into the base. Our team held him back for long enough until they retreated back to camp. It was now time to lick my wounds. After those events, a few real days passed, and I wasn't on the server for a little while. And when I logged on, Mikey had told me to read a book that one of Emil's guys had left outside the base. And it read, "You have 15 days and the war begins." So on day 182, the battle for this land begins. Now I wasn't on the server for 4 days, and now there were only 11 days left. But Mikey had hooked me up with a deal. He told me to travel to JD Kelly, and there he will trade his full set of god gear to me Him and Mikey had set some sort of deal up for when the Nether opens on the server. So I rushed to collect my armor. Jamie then handed over the god set that he was working on. For a neutral nation, I don't really know why he was working on a god set. But like I said, I don't really think he's neutral. With now the god set in my inventory, I headed home to get ready for war. After days of prepping, digging secret tunnels all around the castle in case we need to escape, the team grinding for arrows to repel the forces that are about to come. It was now time for this battle to begin. Emil's team and our team, we had made a mini-game out of it, and we had set up some ground rules. If they manage to break into the castle and push us out, they are the rightful owners to this land. And then for our side, if we manage to push Emil back all the way to the castle and drive them out, we are then the rightful owners to this land. Just remember, this battle's about to begin, and it's hardcore. Once you die, you're gone forever. So let's see if Emil really thinks this is worth dying for. Time to get into position. When the moon drops under the horizon, the battle begins. A few members of Emil and his allies had already fallen. Our goal at the start of the battle was to destroy all the trebuchets in sight. After a few more kills came in, Emil ordered a retreat, and they started their returns to Storm's Landing. As a unit, we all pushed forward, this time banding into one group, not multiple groups. I ordered everyone out of the castle, except a small reserve, to protect if any surprises come along. Before we followed them to Storm's Landing, we burnt down the camp, so they couldn't return. We had just won the first battle, but we have not won the war. It is not over yet. But morale is high. And with that, we used the adrenaline to charge across the country. Until we reach the next chapter of the fight. And that's the fight for Storm's Landing. The town that I want to get back. It had been a long time since I was home, and there was now a new bridge. Things looked slightly different. Arrows were exchanged back and forth across the bridge. This was dangerous. Going across the water would leave us vulnerable, but going across the bridge leaves us open to flame arrows. The only way we're getting across here is if we all go together. So that's what we did. As a unit, we all pulled out our shields. Every single one of us. People that didn't have shields stayed behind others that did. We were successful. We blocked a ton of arrows until we found out that the bridge was trapped. And it blew up, causing chaos among our group. Luckily, no one died, but some people were close to death. With this, I took the order. It's now or never. Charge across and attack. My eyes were on Fatal. I wanted to get revenge finally for burning down my camp, and just as he tried to pearl away, he popped, dying. After killing Fatal, we chased his bodyguard down too. All together, killing him. 2 more players are now down. It's now time to take back the castle. They retreated. The town was now ours, and they were now at the gatehouse. But we were so quick charging through the town, they had no time to close the gate. We had taken the gatehouse without even blowing up the gate. Our goal right now was to clear the rest of the people out of this structure. And there was only one left. And I managed to get the killing blow on him. All that was standing in our way was us and Skeleton Keep. At this point, it didn't matter if we killed them or not. We just wanted our land back. So we waited for the reserves at our castle to come in. And then we will do the final push to take Skeleton Keep and drive them out of this land. Push this back. Hit the front door. It doesn't matter if you're hitting inside.
Yeah.
Okay, now 5. Push behind the trigger phase, everyone.
There's a tower directly inside the gate on the right, and there should be a window on it, and it will lead directly inside the keep. Then there's a tower. There's a tower in the corner that has a staircase that goes up to all the different floors.
With no way into the castle, I knew what I had to do. The catapults weren't working. I took my shield out and edged my way closer to the door, placing down TNT at the gate. And flooding all into the castle. We had successfully driven all of them out of the castle. A few players from our team went on the journey to try and track them down and hunt any stragglers, while the rest of us explored the castle, looking for anyone that might be hiding here. Remember, our goal is to take this land back. After initial scout and looking around, the castle was clear. We had now taken back Storm's Landing. And I know what you might be thinking. That I should be the king of Storm's Landing. That was a lot of the comments that said. But you guys don't see a lot of behind the scenes. Or just what goes on in the server. And Soccer and Five, they really love this town. And they run it really well. So Soccer, our king, brought Mikey up to say thank you for everything he's done. And Herb, well, he took Gnome's place because Gnome wasn't here today. Without our allies, without Forest, without Mikey, without Gnome, we wouldn't have been able to stomp them out like this. Mission well done. And this brings us to the end of this current 100 days. We have our nation back. It took a lot of work and a lot of planning. But this story isn't over yet. Emil still isn't dead. Bring on the next chapter. And thank you again for Dragon City for sponsoring this video. Make sure to click the link in the description below to claim your free special award. And a very rare reward, Thief Chief Dragon. Thank you again, Dragon City, for sponsoring the video.